Hello and welcome to the WIHS Journal Public Affairs program. I'm Jerry Williams. Well, it's one of the jewels of Connecticut, Essex, Connecticut. And that's where you'll find, along the shoreline, the Connecticut River Museum. It was established in 1974 as a small, all-volunteer organization dedicated to the dream of establishing a museum that would preserve the history of the Connecticut River and its people. And I was out and about in Essex, and that's where I caught up with Elizabeth Kaiser, Executive Director of the Connecticut River Museum. Hear Elizabeth expound on what the Connecticut River Museum is all about. Happening now on the WIHS Journal, it's News and Public Affairs. Well, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, as Mr. Rogers so frequently used to say. It's a beautiful day in Essex, Connecticut. And I am at the Connecticut River Museum speaking with Executive Director Elizabeth Kaiser. How you doing, Elizabeth?
I'm doing so well.
You know, I was sharing with Elizabeth, folks, that, it's always fun to decide what museum out of the plethora of museums in the state of Connecticut. It's always a fun process. All right, which one am I going to do next? And I decided, because of a traffic report that I did. I happened to do the traffic and saw that there was an accident or something or road work in Essex. I said, that's it. Essex it is. That's next. This is a wonderful place to have a museum. It's right on the water. Talk about it. It's what's going on here at the Connecticut River Museum.
I think you're totally right, and you may possibly be the first person who's ever come here specifically because of a traffic report, so that award is yours. The Connecticut River Museum is a fabulous place. We are located right on the Connecticut River. We're about 6 miles up from Long Island Sound in very, very scenic, very, very classic New England town here. Our building is historic. It was originally a steamboat dock built in the late 19th century. And today we are a really awesome museum. Y'all should come visit because we have a wonderful story to tell about the history of this area and the history of the Connecticut River. We essentially tell 12,000 years of history over the course of 2 floors, from the geologic formation of the Connecticut River Valley through the first encounters of indigenous peoples and Europeans, to manufacturing and growth and shipping in the 19th century, to what's going on with the river today. So right now, I look out of my window, I see a beautiful blue river. That river changes every day. It changes its color, it changes how it looks. It sometimes is very smooth, and sometimes it has beautiful ripples, and sometimes, like earlier this summer when there was all of that huge flooding and storming up in northern New England, it turned completely brown. And you started to see huge logs and all sorts of snags and one lowly refrigerator and large pieces of marina all coming down the river. And it's a great reminder that this river connects all of us, that this is the backbone of New England. There are 2.4 million people in its watershed, and we're all a part of its story. And part of what we want to do here at the Connecticut River Museum is help you figure out what your part in that story is.
What are some of your favorite artifacts or things inside the museum?
Well, I think one of the things that almost everyone who comes to the museum absolutely loves is the turtle. So the turtle was invented by a man named David Bushnell, who was born and raised here in this part of Connecticut. He went to Yale and got really interested in explosives, and he was pretty sure he could figure out how to get something to explode underwater. He did. And then, during the American Revolution, he wanted to support the cause, and so he built the world's first one-person submarine. And the idea was that he would send a person down underwater with these hand cranks, and if you come to the museum, you too can get your hands on some hand cranks and imagine what it would feel like to be the single person in this very tiny submersible, hand cranking your way towards a British ship. It was a great concept. It didn't quite work, but George Washington did call it genius.
If you're just joining us, I am with Elizabeth Kaiser, Executive Director of the Connecticut River Museum. And you've been Executive Director for how long now?
It's about 10 months at this point.
What's your background? What got you involved or interested in this kind of thing?
I've been involved with museums for essentially my entire life. I started volunteering with museums when I was a kid. I kept working and interning in museums through high school and college, and I've more or less been working in museums for as long as I have been, well, almost as long as I've been alive. And I think that a lot of my love and passion for museums started with early museum visits that I did with my parents when I was a kid, because it allowed me to see the world in a different way. Because you could learn something, and it was fun, and there were questions, and it was interactive, and you could talk to people. And when you got home, you could kind of reflect on it and think about it and ask more questions. And it allowed you to just imagine how you might be able to influence the world, how you might be able to be like something that you saw or heard in one of those museum visits. As a kid, I went to Old Sturbridge Village a lot, which was a history museum, and I loved talking to the people and asking them how they did whatever it was that they were doing and why they did it, because it allowed you to contextualize your world, to understand where you'd been, so that you could begin to imagine where you wanted to go.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Connecticut, so a little bit north of where we are here in Essex. I grew up in West Hartford, and then I went off and lived in New York City and Philadelphia, and now I'm back.
The museum is here in Essex. Do you reside in this town as well?
I'm one town over.
What kind of people do you see come through here?
A huge number of people who love to come and visit the museum. So we serve a lot of school children over the course of the year. We do field trips where kids come to us and where we go to them. We work with all kinds of different learners of all sorts of different abilities. We also have a large population of folks who just like to come and visit. We have locals, we have people from all four corners of the state of Connecticut, we have people coming from across the country. We have 2 vessels that cruise regularly, Onrust, which is a replica of Adrian Block's vessel from 1614, and also RiverQuest, which is our easy breezy eco cruiser, very good for bird watching. And so you find a lot of different people come for those experiences. So we see everyone, all ages, all styles, all types.
Do you have camps for kids during the summer? Any kind of activities like that?
We do. We have a summer camp that happens each year. It usually lasts about 6 weeks over the course of the summer. Each week has a different theme, and we welcome campers who are in the sort of elementary school age demographic. We also have programs for homeschoolers. Those happen monthly. And for folks who are on the autism spectrum, we have sensory-friendly mornings.
Are you year-round?
We are open year-round, Tuesday through Sunday, 10 to 5, except for a few major holidays.
In closing, what would you say to those who are listening that has never experienced it? Why should they come?
I think the number one word that people use when they come to this museum is gem. I hear it all the time. People say, that museum is such a gem. And I think they're right. This museum has something for everyone. There are hands-on interactives for kids. There are interesting objects and lots of history for folks who want to go in that direction. We also have information about what's happening with the river today and about sort of how the river is changing, about the environmental impact that humans have had on the river and where we're going in the future. And so I think that it's kind of a one-stop shop for everyone, whether you want that in-museum experience, whether you want to hear this information when you're on one of our 2 vessels and cruising on the river. We really want to encourage everyone to become a river steward. Everyone who lives in the state of Connecticut is connected to this river. And this is the only place that tells the story of the Connecticut River, all 410 miles from New Hampshire down to the Sound. So if you want to know about the place that is your watershed, that is your home, this is the place to come.
Well said. She's Elizabeth Kaiser, Executive Director of Connecticut River Museum, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for visiting. It's great to have you.
And if you would like more information about what you heard today, call WIHS 860-346-1049, 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily of those of the staff or management of the station. I'm Jerry Williams for the WIHS Journal. It's news and public affairs.